Grandstand Bettors here with 32 NFL season previews in 32 days. We are on day number 11, and we're going to continue to look at the AFC North today and dive into the Cincinnati Bengals. As always, make sure you go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you can get all of your season team previews here at Grandstand Bettors. And while you're at it, smash that like button. We are just a little bit over a month away from the NFL season starting. We are excited. It's a good time to be alive. Now, just a friendly reminder before we get into our Bengals 2021 season preview. We here at Grandstand Bettors are giving away $1,000. Yes, we're giving away $1,000 in our NFL betting contest this year at grandstandbettors.com. The link is below in the description. Head on over to grandstandbettors.com, get signed up for that free contest, and you could be walking away with $1,000 this NFL season. We also have a $100 referral bonus to the person who refers the most people to our contest. While you're over there at Grandstand Bettors, make sure you become part of our family and start living that grandstand life. Without further ado, though, let's dive into the Cincinnati Bengals 2021 season preview. But first, let's take a quick look back at their 2020 season. Now, the preseason over-under last year for them was at 5, and over-bettors definitely should have cashed this out. But unfortunately, Joe Burrow had an injury in Week 11 against the Washington football team, and even before that injury, the Bengals lost 4 games by 5 points or less, and they also tied the Eagles in Week 3. So they definitely had the opportunities to hit the over, but they could just not get it done like those close games, and they lost too many during the season. Their 2020 season can be really summed up by the guy that we mentioned in Joe Burrow. Listen, hopefully they did not ruin his career by providing him with absolutely no offensive line as a rookie QB, which ultimately resulted in him tearing his ACL. But his health this season has to be imperative to the Bengals front office, and will really determine if they get close to hitting the over on the win total this season. If Burrow plays, maybe they have a chance. If he doesn't play at all, they have no shot at getting over their win total, which is, I believe, at 6.5. We'll get into that in just a moment. Now, their defense last season was also nothing to be proud of, giving up 389 yards a game, 240 through the air, and 140 on the ground. All in all, the Bengals had a lot to do of work in the offseason on their defensive and offensive line here to get this team back on track. The Bengals did land a big name in free agency by signing Trey Hendrickson from the New Orleans Saints. This guy had a phenomenal year last season and will drastically help their run defense and pressure the opposing quarterbacks. He recorded 13.5 sacks last season. Now, they were also able to sign Larry Ogunjobi from the Cleveland Browns. Ogunjobi is a young interior defensive lineman with a lot of potential. I know we may not get that last name exactly correct, but we were close, and it's a hard one to say. If you know exactly how to say it down in the comments. Don't spell it, say it. Ha, we're just joking with you. Anyways, listen, Ogunjobi, he never really solidified his role on the Browns roster, but he should be able to get that here. So we'll see if he develops into a good player, becomes a big addition for them. Now, in the secondary, they picked up Mike Hilton from the Steelers and Chidobe Awuzie. Not even close. Chidobe Awuzie. I think it's Awuzie from the Cowboys. Again, another hard name. Go ahead. Tell us in the comments how wrong we are. Trey Waynes will also be returning this season after he missed last season with an injury. So they definitely have a lot of potential here at cornerback this season. Now, the only issue we see is that none of these 3 guys have played together in the NFL. Now, it'll be interesting to see how they develop as a unit and as the season progresses, but there's definitely going to be some blown coverages early on in the season, and it could turn out to be costly in those early games. Now, looking at the offensive line going into the 2021 season, their first-round pick from last season, Jonah Williams, he should be much better this season with a year under his belt. And they have some very good talent coming in. They got second-rounder Jackson Carman from Clemson. They were also able to pick up free agent Riley Reef from the Vikings. in all honesty, we don't think it's possible them to perform any worse than they did last season. So this group is definitely going to improve this time around, but they're still very young, and they have a lot of they don't have a lot of NFL playing time under their belts. So with the exception maybe of Reef from the Vikings. But this should also help their run game with Joe Mixon, who got off to a great start last season. Injuries plagued the Bengals, only to be ended in Week 6 with a foot injury against the Colts. Looking at the rest of their offense, the Bengals have very young talent at wide receiver and great weapons that they put around Burrow. We're excited to see how Tyler Boyd performs this season after the departure of A.J. Green to the Cardinals, because if defenses start to focus on him as the veteran of the group, I think they're going to be in trouble. T. Higgins is looking to improve on a very solid rookie season last year. The guy had 67 receptions for over 800 yards and 6 touchdowns. And their 5th overall draft pick, Jamar Chase, very similar to Higgins, is also going to be looking to prove his worth this season, considering they selected him over a very good lineman, Penei Sewell. Now he's teaming up with his collegiate teammate Burrow, so we'll see if a year apart did anything to the chemistry, but they should be able to connect Burrow and Burrow and Chase, just like they did at LSU. Now Higgins and Chase both have very good speed and elusiveness that'll be fun to watch as they get more NFL experience. However, given Burrow threw 404 times last season in just 11 games, defenses will surely be playing up and pressuring these young receivers, forcing the Bengals to really get the run game going behind an offensive line that is still trying to rebuild. Now, don't get us wrong, this team is definitely going to put points on the board this season, but unless they can get their run game going with Joe Mixon behind that O-line that has not had a lot of playing time together, defenses should be able to know how to defend these guys. Now, if you get into their schedule, the Bengals picked the wrong time, really, in all honesty, to be rebuilding a team in the AFC North. The reason is they have the 6th hardest schedule in the NFL, but that's mostly because they have to play the Browns, Steelers, and Ravens twice, which if they are able to get 2 wins out of those games, you and me should really consider that a huge step forward. With the Week 15 upset against the Steelers last season, or without it, they probably would have gone 0-6 in divisional play. But we like them again to at least split with Pittsburgh this season. The Bengals play a home opener against Minnesota, which we're going to call an upset. We think Burrow and the Bengals aren't going to be looked at. The Vikings are going to not think that this is going to be a tough game. We think that this could be a win for the Bengals. Now, the rest of the games before their bye week include games against each team in their division, the Browns, Ravens, and the Steelers, and trip to Chicago, Detroit, and New York to take on the Jets, and also home games against Green Bay and the Jags. So by the time the bye week rolls around, we're looking at probably 3-6 for the Bengals, which is kind of a little on pace to maybe hit that over. After their bye week, though, they have to travel to Las Vegas to take on the Raiders. That's going to be a tough game to win. We also have them losing this game, but they could get right back on track the next week after, beating maybe the Steelers at home. And then they play a grudge match against Justin Herbert and the Chargers, one of which they lost, I think, 16-13 last season. So they're going to have that circled on their calendar for this year as well. The remainder of their schedule features the 49ers, the Ravens, the Chiefs, the Broncos, and the Browns. Again, unless they surprise us and pull off an upset in one of these games, we see them realistically only beating the Broncos maybe in Mile High Stadium, which gives them a 5-12 record and a 1-game cushion on that under. But that's with them maybe losing again to LA and Detroit. So it's going to be close. To sum things up, in all honesty, the Bengals have had a lot of young stars, and there's a lot of names on this NFL team that could be great in the future. But with a rebuilt defense that's not had a lot of playing time together, and an offensive line that's looking to maybe redeem itself but had a poor showing last season, and we don't see them getting that much better or bringing that much more effort to getting them more wins. We just can't see them hitting their over 6.5. They need 7 wins on the season, and even with that extra game, I think that's asking a lot from the Bengals. Bengals, as a Browns fan, man, we rebuilt for so long, and we're finally having a couple winning seasons. I think you guys have actually the greatest pieces in place. I think you guys are actually set up better than the Browns with your QB, the wide receivers that you have, and the direction your team is going, I can see the Bengals possibly next year being a playoff team. So, you know what, Bengals fans? Let me have it below. Tell me, you think over under 6.5? We're going to go best bet Cincinnati Bengals under 6.5 here. But as always, sit back, relax, enjoy the rest of the preseason, get geared up for the NFL season. We have one more team tomorrow from the AFC North. It is our Cleveland Browns. It's probably going to be a longer video because we could talk about them for years. But I'm going to tell you right now, you might be surprised on what you think our prediction is for the Browns. So sit back, relax, join us tomorrow for the Cleveland Browns. Make sure you subscribe and like for all of our NFL season previews. We'll see you tomorrow.